when you book various
lunatics,
free spirits. Let's call them free spirits on your
Nazis.
On your show.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a scale of 1 to 10. Scale of 1 to 10 question. 1, and the scale would be, this is not a mainstream view, but I think it deserves a hearing.
Yeah.
And 10 would be, this view is totally right, I believe it, and you should too. So taking an average on your guess, where would you place yourself? Does the fact that someone appears on your show, is that a full-throated endorsement of everything?
If I full-throatedly endorse it, it is. Which I sometimes do, often do. Like, you're great, everyone should,
Okay, so if you say that openly.
But we had James Tour on the other day, who's an organic chemist who made an incredibly beautiful case against the Darwinian understanding of life. He's obviously a sincere Christian. And at the end, I was like, man, I hope, where can people find out more? So that's a full-throat endorsement.
That's a 10, right? But are there people that you think, this is not my view, but I think it's worth talking about? The question is, are you trying to move the Overton window, or are you trying to expand the Overton window?
I mean, I'm not a genius, so the truth is I operate by instinct most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a commitment to free speech, which grows out of my understanding of like the human soul, so I'm committed to that.
Right.
And I have an attraction to things that you're not allowed to talk about, because my first instinct is why you're not allowed to talk about that.
Right.
And if it's your sex life, I get it, because it's too personal and I don't want to invade your privacy, because I'm the only person who still believes in privacy. But if it's a public policy question, like how much influence over our government does Israel have, then I can promise you I'm going to do a show on that.
Right.
Because I'm a free man in a free country, and I plan to exercise that freedom until they prevent me from doing it. So if you're asking, which I know you are, about Fuentes, my view of Fuentes was a lot of things he says are, from my perspective, objectively true. 2 things. 1, white men have been systematically discriminated against in this country for my entire lifetime, and it's like crushed them.
Right. I agree.
Should stop that.
I agree with that too.
And 2, the Israeli government, since I've lived in DC for almost 40 years, has way too much influence over the operation of our government. It's like 90% of members of Congress take money from a foreign lobby. What? How is this good?
They take money from everybody.
Well, I mean, AIPAC is, I don't know of a stronger lobby.
Right.
But it's a foreign lobby. Okay, maybe you think that's great. I mean, some people say it's great. That's great. Tell me how it's great. Shut up, anti-Semite. So if you start, look, the tell for me is if someone won't answer a question and instead calls you a name, that person either doesn't have an answer or he's trying to obscure the answer.
Right.
And I am not intimidated by that because I'm too old. So I'm just going to keep going. So in the case of Fuentes, those are my 2 views. Then on the flip side, I had 2 things I wanted to say to him. The first was anti-Semitism is immoral.
Right.
Not because it's unfashionable or the ADL says it is immoral. I don't care about that. It's immoral because all forms of hatred against people on the basis of their blood are immoral and
Which is the point you made earlier.
And I said that to him.
Right.
And he agreed. Whether he actually agrees or not, I don't know.
Well, he doesn't. But
I'm not as good at divining motive, I guess.
Well,
I don't know. But he certainly said it, and I backed him into saying it. Whatever. And the second thing is, his views of the way men and women get along are just like tragic to me. I think we are responsible for that. We've created a society that makes it impossible for people to, like normal people, to find a mate. But he's going on about how the fault is women, and I wanted to make the point to him that that's like depressing and not true.
Right.
And to me, the takeaway, the biggest part of the interview had nothing to do with Israel or even discrimination against whites. It had to do with this like totally diseased relationship between younger men and younger women that's like a national emergency, and no one seems to care.
Now, the 2 things you said that Fuentes says that are true, the discrimination against white men.
Yeah.
Jeremy Carl wrote a magnificent book, The Unprotected Class, arguing that very point, and went from the front cover to the back cover without ever once tracking in what Nick Fuentes tracks in. So it's like Nick Fuentes has got a good point on his left shoe, but he stepped in dog dew in his right shoe.
You see that a lot. Probably with me too. I mean, I probably got views you agree with, views you think are insane. I mean, you know.
Okay, but there's a difference between views that you differ with and views that are toxic, right? There's some sort of.
So how do you handle those views? So that's really the question. That's the practical question. So I didn't create Nick Fuentes, obviously. I never heard of Nick Fuentes. So he started attacking my dad, CIA officer, okay, which enraged me. But I didn't know who he was because I'm 56 and
Right.
I don't like the internet. So like I didn't know that he became the single most influential, ask your staff, the most influential podcaster among young men in America.
Right. Correct.
Why is that? Well, part of it's because he's saying true things, in my opinion. He's funny, he's really good at TV. Part of it is he's so forbidden that people seek him out, like pornography. So my view was bring him out, let him talk. A couple things I really want to say because I feel them so strongly. Anti-Semitism is wrong. If you're beating up on girls, that means you're not a real man. Those are my views.
Right.
But otherwise, just let him talk. Bring him into the light. Now, I was attacked for that because my job is to display my own moral virtue by saying, what you did is wrong and showing him clips. What, this is disgusting. You made fun of the Holocaust. Da, 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 da. Well, Piers Morgan, who I like, actually not a genius, got roped into this to playing that role. Well, someone needs to scold this young man like he's never been scolded before. Nick Fuentes was canceled in college by Ben Shapiro freshman year, which is probably why he has the views he has. Nice job, Ben. But so he comes out there, Piers Morgan's like, Ben Shapiro, how dare you? Or rather, Nick Fuentes, how dare you? And Nick Fuentes laughs in his face, takes him apart, is hilarious, destroyed him, because here's a 27-year-old kid who's like with it, knows what's going on. Here's this older boomer lecturing him. The upshot of, if you watch my interview, you do not think Nick Fuentes was enhanced. No one actually watched it because they're busy calling me a Nazi because they don't like J.D. Vance, so they don't want him to be the Republican nominee. That's what it's actually about, of course. But if you watch,
It's like a water polo game. It's everything's going on underneath the
trust
surface.
me, it's politics, dude. You know, it's sinister. It's the Ottoman court. But if you watch the Piers Morgan interview, you're like, Piers Morgan doesn't even know, you know, his ass from his elbow. And here's this Nick Fuentes just like laughing in his face, and he's hilarious. And you're like, is he diminished by this? No, he's greatly enhanced. So don't fall for it, Dumbo. That's what I would have said if Piers had asked me. And I like, I'm friends with Piers, but like, don't do that. You're playing into his own game. Here's Dad showing up being like, why are you listening to that darn rock music? And the kid's like, shut up, Pops, you don't understand. You know what I mean? Like, who wins? Not Dad.
This all comes back to Footloose, you're saying.
It's truly, it's Elvis on Ed Sullivan. Like, do we have to keep relearning the same lessons?
Okay. So if one of the...
Back me up, gentlemen.
Yeah, they're supposed to keep quiet.
I'm looking at them for affirmation because they're all young men and they're like, you go.
The second point you made before we go on to the next one is I think it's ludicrous if someone says I'm against dual citizenship, for example, in Israel and America, and I am against that. That doesn't make me anti-Semitic. Or if I think that you couldn't hold office if you're a dual citizen, because no. Or if I think that the Israeli lobby has too much influence, that doesn't make you anti-Semitic.
No. I think the pharma lobby has too much, influence. I'm not against penicillin. Like, what are you even talking about?
Yeah, and you can't. Basically, Israeli elections are close elections.
Yeah.
Right. And if you take a position that half of Israel's population holds and votes that way, how can that be anti-Semitic?
I'm surrounded by Jewish people who are friends of mine who agree with my views. So, like, you're never going to convince me that everything Bibi says is spoken on behalf of every Jewish person in the world. Like, that's just not true.
All right. So, but do you agree that you alluded to the responsible heads in the Mossad? There are sane people on the pro-Israel side who would argue that Hamas is a bad deal and this is regrettable, but we have to clean out this nest.
Of course. Okay. I mean, there are sane Americans and sane defenders of Israel in the United States who believe that.
Right.
I don't believe that. And what I believe is, again, we should start by saying, and ask anybody who's out there trying to squelch criticism of Israel, ask, is it like regrettable, sad, maybe even immoral to kill someone, a child who did nothing wrong? And if you can't say that, then we're just operating from different worlds. I'm sorry. Why can't you say that? Why is that so threatening to say, probably not a good idea to kill a child? They will not say that.